Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back at it again with a bit of a surprise announcement, bit of a surprise video over here based off of what we got to see in that 3.5 live stream. And that is, of course, going to be the return of the anniversary banners. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the convene that everyone was looking forward to back in version 3.3 that had all the older characters. Well, it's back. And it's actually better than what we had before. So if you were missing it, missing out on that opportunity, well, you're probably going to be very happy with this. However, this is also going to be a video as well that's going to cover, well, how bad is this banner? Because there is a bit of an issue, right? When you have a banner like something, like the Chronicled Wish banner from Genshin, where you're allowing older characters who maybe don't have as much meta relevancy to kind of be reintroduced back into the system and, potentially break somebody's account. So what we're going to be doing today is, of course, going through all the details of this, how it actually works, why I think it's actually good, and of course, what most players should actually be doing if they are navigating what this is. So first things first, here are going to be some of the main details regarding it. The banner is going to have a 50-50. The ones that are going to be available are going to be Jian, Yinlin, Changli. Yeah, we all see what's going on over here. And every time they're obtained, you're going to be able to select somebody, right, that you can choose. Freely selected and choose across the whole pity, but there's a 50% chance it's going to be somebody from the standard banner. However, there's also that guarantee that we always have when it comes to this system. So this part people aren't really going to like because it operates in the same exact way, but this next part is what I really want you all to focus on. The guarantee count is shared among all Reverb Resonator convenes. That's what this is called. The Reverb Resonator Convene Starpath Reverbs. That's when the older units are getting rerun. So essentially, if you don't get the guaranteed unit here, you'll have the guarantee available for the next time a banner of this type comes up. So that means there might be different units on here, maybe some of the 2.x ones, or maybe a Shorekeeper and a Camellia on the next rerun of this, and then you'll have the share pity count over there. So that's essentially how this one is going to work. Very similar to the Chronicled Wish banner from Genshin, where there's a separate pity that starts from 0, but it's shared every time that banner returns. And that's how it's going to be working for this one. Another thing to think about that you might not have actually considered is that the wave bands for these units are also going to be available in the shop too. And the shop that they're talking about is, of course, this one with all the Afterglow Coral and stuff like that. So you'll have the opportunity to S6 your units, get all those wave bands, blah, 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 assuming that's something that you wanted to do, which is really, really, really good and really, really, really nice for, well, anybody that wanted to really max out these characters but hasn't had the opportunity to for over a year, since that's the last time these guys ran was 2.3. Nice thing for them. Next, we got to take a look at the gifts of Starpath. And this is going to be what sets this banner apart from the older systems that we've seen in other games. That's going to be this. This is going to be a rebate. Some could call it a pulling event. But when you see the numbers required in this rebate, you'll see what I'm talking about. So this rebate only goes up to 80 pulls. Essentially, the amount that you would need to guarantee at hard pity 1 5-star character without 50-50 involved. And across that path of going to 80 pulls, you'll get up to 21 back. And you're also getting, at least for this version, its special campaign, you're getting 10 free pulls on the banner. So essentially, right, assuming that you do hit hard pity, where you're getting 10 for free, and then 21 back over here, you realistically only need like 40 to maybe 50. You're essentially getting 31 for free, and if you were to hit, well, 80 in that process, you would need 49, but realistically, you're not going to go to 80, you're probably going to go to 70, so it's going to be closer to like 40-something pulls, maybe even 30-something, to get the first 5-star on this banner, assuming that you're using this rebate to its full potential. But that's the thing. These characters are essentially on the reruns. They're available again for a discount. That's how they work. They're available for a discount. And then the discount carries forward as well. Because remember, when you combine a rebate, when you combine a discount, all of that stuff with the banner carrying forward as well, this is where I think it really is set apart from what other gacha companies are doing. We're on the Chronicled Wish banner, right? In Genshin Impact. You don't have this whole sort of like discount, or you don't have this discount thing actually built in. You don't have the rebate, you don't have the free 10 pulls, none of that stuff. ZZZ had a similar banner to this as well, right? Where they instead made it so that the first 5 stars is guaranteed, but you don't actually know if there's pity carry forward on that banner. You don't know if ZZZ's ever going to do that again. It might have just been a one-time thing, and then the pity on that one could potentially be lost forever. But over here, you're getting the guarantee that the pity's going to stay. And then you also, at least from what I'm seeing over here, get the guarantee that this Gifts of Starpath is going to be available every time this banner runs. And if that's how they decide to operate, the older units, they get their reruns on this banner, and then the banner is heavily discounted to this much of a degree, and then it carries forward between the banner. As long as they run this Gifts of Starpath every single time, I don't think anyone can complain about this thing. Because essentially, you're getting the old units at a discount if you want them, but you still have to make the decision to pull them yourself, right? But if you do, and you want to do it, you'll get them for less than, well, what other units cost, because they're theoretically also worth less than what other units cost as well. So yeah, that's kind of like how we're seeing it shift out over here. And I think a lot of people might just take a stab at like getting the first pity on this because it's going to be discounted, and maybe like S6 or S6 or get closer to S6ing a 1.x character or two. But once again, that's only if you decide to actually pull on this. And that's kind of like how I think most people should be viewing this rebate. It's more of a discount for people that want to pull older, more deprecated units instead of like FOMO to actually pull for them. However, you can always have the opinion that, oh, this is just FOMO for people to pull. And if that's how it, does break down for some people, if they do end up pulling and they get a unit that they don't actually want, then that would be predatory. That would be bad. Right? But when this banner is, I think, mostly just designed for people that either want collection purposes, just to, like, either own all of the units, or they just want to, like, really buff up 1 or 2 of them, I think that's really, like, what it should be viewed as. I don't really think it's anything more than that. Because if you're a new player and you end up pulling on this, yeah, your shit might get fucked up, might 100% get fucked up, but you could also just be a new player, and this is also what new players can do if they're gonna fuck up their shit. Yeah, they can just do this. Yeah, this destroys your account too. Yeah, a new player can do this and also destroy their account as well. So, like, don't worry. Kuro Games offers plenty of opportunities for people to brick their own accounts in-game. And if the option is there and somebody can't control themselves for being a fucking idiot, then I guess we need to remove the ability to buy standard pulls too, right? But that's still in there. So, you can see what's going on over here. But that conversation is just for the characters. That conversation, ladies and gentlemen, it's just for the characters. Because the weapon banner is a different situation. Because alongside all of those rerunning 1.x units, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have all of the rerunning 1.x banners. You know what that means. You got to get this. Gotta get String Master. String Master is back, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time ever in over a year. And based off of what we've seen from even the most recent set of Rectifier users, it's still held onto the spot as the second best generalist weapon for pretty much everybody on the roster. It's either their signature, and the second best in slot is String Master. And that's just kind of like how it's been since the dawn of time. And when this weapon over here basically has the reputation of, hey, you just pull this thing and you theoretically don't really need to pull any other sub DPS signature weapon option ever again, that's a nice sort of appeal over here, right? Because especially for characters like Denya or Lucilla, if they don't have this, or they don't have their signature, their next best option is kind of like significantly worse. And for most people, having just one copy of this is one of the greatest adds to their account because it makes building characters a lot easier with its 36% crit rate. People are still getting minor bonuses to attack and stuff that aren't the craziest thing ever, but it still helps. But the main thing is that you could just try to like drag and drop this thing on virtually any Rectifier user that isn't Shorekeeper or Verena, and you'll have a pretty good time. And it's a really high value pick. Still, to this day. And it hasn't changed since day one of the game. And for most people, picking one up is going to be a net add to your account. But should you pick one up in the present? And my answer to that question is, it truly does depend on what type of teams that you play and what types of actual sort of investment you already have going. If you already have like a bunch of like existing rectifiers, like you have Lucillas, you have Denyas, you have Furlovas, you have Cantarellas, or you have any of these, you don't really need String Master, right? Because you already have a good generalist weapon, just like a stat stick, and all String Master is really providing over other stat sticks is like that very, very, very small, up to 24% attack increase. But if you don't have any of these, right? You don't have this, you don't have that, maybe you just have Furlovas, you kind of do want at least 2 5-star rectifiers. If you only have one, right, or one is like really glued to a unit, it's never going to switch positions, right, and you play that unit every time, maybe you just want to pick up String Master as like the third one. I don't think anybody needs anywhere close to 3 5-star rectifiers. I think 2's just fine, but if you only have 2, String Master should be one of them. And that's likely a position a lot of players might actually be in, because sub DPSs tend up being the least weapon dependent characters on your team. But String Master ends up being that reliable option you use every time, and that's why I'm saying it allows you to skip so many rectifier signatures very, very, very often. Because that's what a lot of people do. They just use the String Master on their Denya, on their Lucilla, etc., and, well, their team's clear just fine. And that's really the only weapon you should be getting from here. I don't really suggest at all, unless you're going for like some sleeper picks like Jian's signature or Zhang Liao's, assuming you don't have Augusta's weapon and you don't have like Yuno's weapon, and you want to like get a weapon that works on both characters, like you for some reason have a Jian, you have a Zhang Liao, they don't have their weapon yet. But other than that, I don't think we're really picking up any of these guys as weapons, right? Unless you're picking up the characters, in which case, great, you can get their weapon too as well for collector purposes. But other than that, String Master is kind of the only character or the only weapon on this banner. I think Kuro Games knows that. That's why you don't get any of the rebate in weapon pulls. You only get the rebates, as you can see over here. The rebates are only occurring for the character pulls, nothing for the weapon, because they know people are probably trying to pick up String Master, and they don't want to give it to you that easy. But yeah, guys, that's the breakdown on this banner. And somebody asked the question for dupes. Once again, the dupes are going to be available, guys, in the Coral Shop, so you will be able to pick up the 2 copies. Now, time for some final thoughts on the integration over here and what's going on. Do you think 1.x characters won't be buffed won't be buffed because of this? Jury's still out on that one, because this is kind of like the personal take that I have going on over here. They did something really, really, really weird in this live stream where they've, like, for some fucking reason, have these. Check this out. Why? Why did they do this? That's my question. Why the fuck did they add in convene animations for all the old characters' weapons? Bro, do you know who doesn't have convene animations on their weapons? The characters rerunning in this patch. Bro, the 1.x characters are getting convene animations on their weapons before before Linne is. Wait, sorry, I need to see this. They're getting them before Linne, before Luke, before Imith. Why? Unless they're maybe planning some buffs or some shit in the future. Because this is my take. This is a lot of extra work to do for like no fucking reason. Because you guys are all asking, so what? That means there was no fucking reason to do this. That's the proof. So if they're not doing anything, there are no buffs, then they did this for no reason, and that kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. If your only possible response to my statement is, so what? Then you don't even know what. Then there wasn't even a reason to do it in the fucking first place, is the point that I'm making. Maybe they're planning on something big. Maybe they're putting in the extra budget. Maybe they're deciding to ramp up some of like the production quality over here for some of these old characters, because the old characters are getting something to make them worth this. I think it's a logical take to make. I don't think it's anything wild. It's like, guys, imagine, right? That like at your workplace, okay, sorry, workplace is probably the wrong thing. It's probably the wrong thing to say, especially consider the audience. Let's just say like at your grocery store, or sorry, at your local McDonald's, right? At your local McDonald's, you see them starting to renovate the dining area, right? And you might be saying, wouldn't it be logical to say that if they're renovating the dining area at McDonald's, they're going to upgrade the furniture? You told somebody that. Yo, they're renovating the area. I think they're going to make this place look nicer. And the other person's like, no, they're just bringing in all these workers to do something for like no reason. Yeah, that's not enough. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking. So what? Wait, them bringing in workers and construction people to do something. So what? That doesn't mean that they're gonna add in new furniture. That doesn't mean that they're gonna make the place look nicer. Oh, they're spending all this extra budget and money on the old characters to make them look nicer. That doesn't mean that they're gonna do anything to them in the future. Yeah, they're just spending all this money for no reason. Yeah, they just did because they wanted to. That's what you guys are fucking saying. That's what you guys are saying. Yeah, they're just doing this because they felt like it. There's no other ulterior motive. Great. I mean, sure. Anyways, you can see over here that Kuro Games is deciding to put in a lot more budget, a lot more work into the designs over here, especially for these convene animations. And so a lot of people could think, oh, there's no reason why Kuro Games would decide to do that unless they were deciding to maybe invest more into these characters into the future. And when we know that we're going back to Jinzhou, we're going back to this area, we saw Zhang Liao again in the story, maybe they plan on making them a bit more of like a permanent sort of, you know, forget-me-not sort of deal. So if that happens, great. If we get the buffs, awesome. It would make these things feel like it would make decisions like this, they would have a lot more sense. And I don't view characters being available on a discount, I don't view that as that necessarily meaning that they're not going to get buffs. Because you can think about it this way, right? You can think about it this way. There are a lot of characters that theoretically are available on a discount, right? It depends on how many pulls you get in an update. Some could say Hiyuki was available on a discount because you got so many fucking pulls in the anniversary patch. And while they're obviously on an official discount over here, it could simply just be due to the fact that, oh, this is Kuro saying sorry that they haven't reran them for over 1.5 fucking years. You could view this as an apology. Is there proof that this isn't an apology for not rerunning them? In the same vein that people could say a discount is proof that they're not buffing them, I could say, hey, is there any proof that this isn't just an apology for not rerunning them? And you could have that exact same viewpoint too. The main thing is that this is all just like speculation. This is all just like theorizing on what news that we've gotten right now. The main thing is that Kuro's clearly putting way more thought into 1.x units, how they're getting integrated into the game, how they're monetizing them, so on and so forth. And that's a good thing. At a baseline, them just recognizing and having the conversation about these characters is one of the best things ever. Because they've essentially been ignored, put in like the fucking doghouse, and basically left out in the rain for, well, since last year's anniversary. And that's a pretty fucking long time for like a bunch of like units and stuff, right? To essentially be the rejects of society. And that's, well, no longer the case anymore. And I think that's a great thing. And this banner, this implementation, gives the Starpath, all of that, Resonator Reconvene, I think it's honestly great. And while, yes, some people can fuck their account completely doing it, you've already got plenty of ways to do that yourself. Fuck it, bro. Just look at my corals, bro. Bro. Kuro added in this shit because of me. Bro, I fucking redeemed 300 of them on day one of the Cyberpunk update, and then right after they pushed out a hotfix that limited them. I'm pretty sure they saw the transaction, they saw that I spent all mine, and they were like, oh shit, fix that, bro. They did it, they literally put it in like 10 minutes after I did this. So I think they knew that I was the one that did it. Not even joking, bro. They literally added that shit in the same day. So yeah. Plenty of ways for you to brick your account already. And I don't think a discounted banner for collectors and like people that want to take a 40 pull risk, I don't think this is the place where we need to die on the hill of, oh no, somebody can f their account on this. Yeah, at least they'll only f themselves out of like 40 pulls. Yeah, okay, great. I've seen worse things ever. So yeah, that's gonna be the situation. That's gonna be the banner breakdown. And that's gonna be my take. Let me know what you all thought. Peace out.